Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hello, and this is Amber again, and we're back with a new week, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Cindy Murray and Kristen Hessler.
Hola.
Hello.
And as I mentioned last week, this week is our 1-year anniversary. Technically yesterday, but this is our anniversary episode.
I can't
Happy
believe we
anniversary.
made it through a whole year of weekly episodes.
I know,
Yeah.
that is so crazy.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, weekly episodes and blogs 1 year. And it has definitely been off and on rocky, but we're here and we're still going.
I don't call it rocky. I think it's been fun. Now,
It's been fun, but like have been challenging moments.
There have been challenging moments, yes.
With the three of us, it's not rocky, it's smooth. It's the individual, like, getting inside your own head. That's
is.
the
rocky.
individual
It is.
hang-ups,
Yes.
Personal
yes, definitely.
discipline and stuff.
Personal
Yes.
discipline, work-life balance.
Making myself write that blog every week.
Yeah, trying to
Yep.
figure that stuff out has been interesting but enjoyable, and I wouldn't trade any minute of it with you guys.
I know, it's been awesome. I've really thoroughly enjoyed this. Like I said, I can't believe it has been a year now.
Yes.
So,
And we wouldn't be here without you listeners, so thank you for coming back and downloading and commenting and checking us out. Well, so get back to the meat of the matter. It is November, and it's National Novel Writing Month. And for those of you that don't know what National Novel Writing Month is, it is well, actually, I'll do a little history on it. So it was started in 1999 in California. I don't think it was San Francisco, but it was started in 1999 in California with 21 people. They sat down and they challenged themselves to write a novel in the month of November.
wow.
And it had to be at least 50,000 words.
Wow.
Yeah, so they took on the challenge of 50,000 words in November, and now it has like completely blown up. There are 420 last year there were 427,000 participants. Yeah.
427,000?
Yes, and across
gosh.
all of the continents, 671 regions
Wow.
throughout the world.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know, and it just started with 21 people in 1999, the challenge of 50,000 words, and now 427,653 people participate.
You know, I'm sitting here, that just boggles my mind.
Yeah.
50,000 words. You know,
In a month.
In a month's time. I sometimes struggle to write one podcast or one blog post
Mm-hmm.
a week, and I'm trying to think how
How many words?
words a day would that be? Does somebody have a calculator handy?
Yeah, like
Here I have one right here.
I mean, that's not a complete novel. That's just like a first draft.
Divided by 30 days.
That's about 200 pages in a novel.
That's
a typical novel.
1,666 words a day. I don't even write
How many words?
1,666.
Well,
1,600.
you know, a
It's
page.
like writing an essay every day.
Yeah, a typed page is like about 500 words. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's actually doable if you write a page a day. No,
Right.
you'd have to write more than a page a day
You have to write
because
more than a page a day.
it's like
About
what you said,
3 pages.
200,
3 pages a day.
200
pages a
and
day.
something.
Oh,
You said
200
there's like
pages a day?
200 and something pages
Yes,
for the
50,000
novel.
word manuscript is 200 pages.
okay.
Okay, so, I mean, that's doable, actually. I mean, you hear 50,000 and you're like, oh my God, that's so many pages, but only 200 pages.
But
That's
I'm
doable.
I'm sitting here saying,
Every single day.
I write one blog a week, and we're talking, maybe 2 pages long in a Word document before I upload it to the blog. And it takes me all week to write that blog. So,
Yeah, you'd have to write like about 4 or 5 pages a day to really. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be great. It's like a first draft. But they even have contests on like who wins the first draft.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually join a novel writing community. And I can tell you the website right now. It's NANOWRIMO.org.
NANOWRINO.
M-O.
M as in month.
Month, yeah.
.org. Okay.
Yeah, .org. And you can actually go online and join their community, and then you can find they have a Dallas-Fort Worth region, and you can hook up, or not hook up, but you know what I mean, link up
Yes.
with other writers in the area that are also participating in the challenge and share stories, share ideas, and everything like that.
I don't think, in light of the fact that we're doing a Halloween or a October Not Quite Daily album that Kristen and I kind of started this year. It's the first time ever. And then I'm getting ready to start my December Daily.
She like she
finding
just
ways to plug it
yeah, I
in there.
know. She just has to like throw December. I feel like Allie Edwards is paying Cindy somehow to mention December Daily
I am
in
channeling
every
her
episode.
or something, yes.
So you're gonna have to
I'm
get her to
obsessed.
sponsor us or something because
Right?
we've mentioned her
But-
in like every episode lately.
Well, and I was gonna actually mention some other things about her here in a minute too, but anyway, I'm thinking, no, it would be a fun challenge, even if it was just something stupid and lame, and I just sat and wrote the stupidest dumb thing ever just to say that you did it.
I mean, seriously, I think every year
Johnny
I'm gonna
had a
start-
dog.
Yeah.
Johnny's dog was brown. Just keep writing.
Like every year I say
Could
I'm
you
going to
imagine having a
participate and I don't.
50,000-word book of that? Oh, good Lord.
It was like
Just free form. I'm just thinking free form writing. You could
Yeah.
just free form write and call it a novel. I mean, it's not going to be good.
no, okay, so
You can sell it on Amazon.
the other day I challenged my students to write for 12 minutes timed writing, and literally one of my students did that. I am sitting here. I am waiting for this to be over. I am writing. I am writing. I am writing. I am sitting. I am sleeping. Yeah, like that's pretty much like what he did for the whole 12 minutes. And I'm just like, really? You had enough energy to do that and you couldn't, like, have a thought?
Yeah, that
That's
was
awesome.
his thought.
That
Cut
was his
his
thought.
nose off to spite his face.
That is.
Yeah,
That is it.
like
exactly.
But yeah, what you were saying, you could totally do that. Like I've had students do that, and I'm just like,
Okay.
I think it takes more energy
It
to do
does.
that
It really does.
and to think about doing that than it would be to just write your
Come up with a
thoughts
story.
on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I know like 50,000 words is a lot of words. But what if I came up with a writing challenge for you guys and the readers? Okay, I'll participate in it myself. And we'll publish it in our blogs for this week. What do y'all think?
That'd be fun. Yeah.
Like what?
Is it a 50,000 word?
No,
Okay.
no. I
can't do
won't
that.
even
I
give
can't do that.
I won't even give you a word count. I'll give you like it has to be at least a page. How's
Of
that?
course.
Okay.
And you
One
said
page.
you write like 2 pages per
On the
blog
blog.
anyway.
Yeah, I
so
could
like
do that. Yeah.
so at least a page would work. And it has to be, let's make it easy, like a personal narrative. Like a personal
let me write this down.
narrative about your life. But I am going to throw a curveball in there.
Okay.
So the writing challenge is at least a page, personal narrative about your life, but you have to add one magical element to your story.
Okay. One magical element.
Yes.
Okay.
And think of it as magical realism. You're talking about your personal life, but you have to add a magical element.
Okay.
And I'm not going to tell you what kind of element it is. It could be like so subtle that I don't even notice it. But it has to be some kind of magical element in your writing.
Okay. Okay. That is going to be a challenge. I'm not, yeah. Okay. Cause this part of that could be okay. Cause the personal narrative I get, and this is where I get to the Allie Edwards thing where I was going to bring it up. I actually write personal narratives all the time. I am a firm believer in journaling about your life or whatever. I do storytelling, personal storytelling. And one of the things that I do is through my journaling, my scrapbooking, I journal the stories of my life in that way. Through COVID, I did some mixed media, but also journaling, storytelling in there about our lives during COVID. And I do that with December Daily, obviously, because it's a story every day. I know I live and breathe this stuff. You people, I
are y'all going to force me to do that this year? Just like y'all forced power sheets on me last year.
But did you do them? You know, that's the big question.
I'm working.
You don't even
on
go
it.
here.
I'm working on it. Okay. Whether I finish it or not, I might be like you're complaining about doing December Daily like all year. I'm going to be doing power sheets for like the next 3 years.
Yeah. But okay, so but one of the things that I do, because I wanted to kind of get better at how I tell my stories, because that's one thing that Allie Edwards is a master of, is telling the stories. She has spent a lot of time developing her craft, and she tells her stories in very significant ways. And in fact, she offers, or she used to offer, a product called Story Camp, where you went to Oregon, where she lived, Oregon or Washington. I think she's in Oregon.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I'm not a fan
somewhere
like
on the. Somewhere.
She is a fangirl.
Yes. But she offers this story camp where she teaches you how to tell your stories. It's like a weekend or
Workshop.
a week-long workshop. Yeah. But then a few years ago, she offered this one that I signed up for called Just Right. And it's, I believe it's 2 prompts a month. I did it for about a year. And then I just kind of quit doing it because I wasn't keeping up with the prompts. But twice a year, she would give you a prompt, and it was a 1-word prompt, and then you would write whatever came to your mind. You could write more than one story or whatever, but the idea was to get you to tell your stories through that prompt. And so I did that, and that was how, if you remember our Cups episode, that was how that essay came about. And so I've done that one for a long time. And another one that I do is it's called My Modern Story, which is was a product developed by Becky Higgins, who does Project Life, which is another storytelling. It's a week and photo-based weekly glance at your life. So you take your pictures or snapshots or whatever on your phone or your camera or whatever all week long. The Project Life is, and then you kind of put that together in a photo story each week at the end of each week. And then, but her newer product is called My Modern Story, and it was a less photo heavy product. It was really based on telling the stories and getting them published in some kind of printed format so that you could share those stories with your family. And I love that idea of telling your stories one little story at a time, telling your life, telling your family's life one story at a time. So some of the things that Allie has done with the Just Right were cups, hands, the color green, phone, soap, different words, and those bring to mind different things, and you can write whatever that brings to your mind. And I loved that because I came up with some kind of interesting, I think interesting essays that go with that. And then doing the My Modern Story gave me a format for publishing some of those stories. So one of the stories I wrote with that one was the story of our Christmas Chex Mix. It's a real kind of a family tradition that we make Chex Mix. I have a special recipe for Chex Mix, party mix, that I do every year. And so I wrote out this whole little story about why that was a family thing, so.
Yeah. I always struggle with making it not a little story. Like, I want it to be a little story, and my stories always seem to have, like, long, drawn out.
Well, mine are too, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think when you have a little prompt like that, if you're just telling the story of the Chex Mix, it has a beginning and an end. It's a finite little thing, and I love the idea of telling your personal stories in those little chunks. And I think a lot of people who write their biography, their autobiography or whatever, they're writing those novels or whatever. They're not doing it. We think of it as writing a novel as 50,000 words or however many. But really, it's not about writing 50,000 words. It's about writing little bits of a story over and over and over again.
The book Girl Interrupted. Everyone remembers the movie. It was a fantastic movie. And
Fantastic book.
yes, I loved the way she wrote that book. This was her retelling of a series of stories during the certain time in her life.
Yeah, those are the best.
Each
yeah.
chapter,
Memoirs.
like her stories were, it wasn't a chronological story. Like when you watch the movie, it's her time chronologically, but when you read the book, she's just retelling these certain memories, so they kind of overlap and intertwine, and it's just each chapter was a different theme of something that touched her while she was going through that experience. And I just really loved the way that was written. That was my first book to ever read that way. I think if I ever wrote my memoirs, I'd do it that way, because you just can't chronologicalize things, because
you can't.
See, another memoir.
It would be boring.
Another memoir I read around the same time was what is the name? Kay Redfield Jameson. Her book about being bipolar.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And that was like, it was written like the same way, pretty much. Little stories from her life when she was unmedicated and becoming a psychologist, and little crazy things that happened to. And she's like one of the leading authorities now on bipolar disorder. But it's called An Unquiet Mind. I couldn't think of the name for a second. But yeah, that book like pretty much saved my life, reading it when I found out that I had bipolar disorder.
I read a book, and I wish I could figure out what the book was, and I'm gonna put the information out there, and maybe one of our listeners will, or maybe even Amber will know what the book was, because I read it at my aunt's house when I was probably 12 or 13. And it was a hardback book, and my aunt gave it to me to read. And it was, I want to say it was Depression era writing, but or either the story was based in the Depression era or it was written in the Depression era. I don't know which. But it was a family. The protagonist was a, young girl, probably my age, 12, 13, 14, maybe. She had siblings, both older and younger, I think. The only thing I remember about, and it was told in little stories like that. It was, I don't remember anything else about this book except there were multiple children. They were poor, and they were making candy. And one of the kids got his or her hand into the hot, like hard candy. Like you melt the sugar to make hard candy. It's very, very hot, like
almost boiling. Yeah.
Yes. And they got it on the hand and it burnt the hand. And the mom wasn't there or something. For some reason, the mom had went out of town or went into town for the day or something. And they wrapped the kids' fingers up with bandages, stuck them together, and just wrapped them up to protect the hands. And something, like they grew together, they scarred together or whatever. And it actually caused more damage to the hand because they had wrapped it up or whatever. But that just kind of stuck in my head. And I think this story it may have been a true story. I don't know. If you know what I'm talking about, if you've ever read that book, I'm dying to know what that book was. I've been thinking about it for years. That scene stuck in my head. There's something about telling little vignettes of someone's life that, I don't know. There's just something about it that sticks with you, I guess, that it makes it interesting to look at things in that way.
A little window into time.
Yes. So, but yeah, I have no idea what that book was. I've been trying to figure it out since I was like 12 or 13 years old. So
when it comes to like personal narrative, that's easy, right? Because it's something you've lived through.
Right.
It's easy
and that's what I was getting at when I said that. I do that all the time with my scrapbooking. Right.
But when we're talking about novels and fiction, I have always wanted to write fiction. And because I have a wild imagination and I love all the genres. I love sci-fi. I love high fantasy. All of them. I mean, I think, like, I want to know, like, where people get, like, their starting point, like, the first book you ever write. I mean, did you just, like, I want to know, like, like Stephen King, when he dreamt up,
Carrie or whatever.
Right. Yeah. What brought him to think of that? And, did the characters come to mind first? Was it the villain or was it the setting?
Right.
I'm always curious about that because
definitely.
Because, like, if you think about Lord of the Rings, right? That one's a really good example because it's a world creation.
There's a whole
world creator.
Created, right.
Right. And, he created language. What was it first? Did he think of the different races, like the elves and the dwarves and the hobbits?
And he wanted to make a story about that circle.
Did he think of Gandalf first? Yeah. Or was it the rings, right?
Yeah.
Or was it,
I would be curious about that
the
too.
idea of taking the ring to the mountain and dropping it in,
I don't know. I'm not J.R.R. Tolkien or whatever. Thinking of that, like, I don't know what he was thinking when he wrote Lord of the Rings, obviously, because I wasn't there, and it was, the 70s.
Weren't?
Right.
What?
So, but me, as a writer, I generally, everything I write, it's kind of like how Stephen King writes. Like, everything he writes is from a dream. So, generally, everything I write is from, like, a dream or a weird idea I had. and I kind of write that idea out, like brain dump or whatever. And I don't use the Eisenhower matrix, though. But, yeah. So I brain dump.
Do you list?
I do list. No, I do list. Like, okay, I brain dump, and then, like, I just kind of start writing. Like, I don't have an end in mind. I don't really even have a beginning in mind. Like, I sometimes go back and write a beginning, and I just start writing, like, a scene. And then that scene builds on another scene. And then, like, it all just
little
unfolds.
vignettes.
Yeah, little things at a time. Like, it all just kind of unfolds. Now, back when I was younger, like middle school, high school, when I was writing, I did come up with a list, and mainly I like came up with the characters first. And I named out all of the characters, and I wrote a list of the characters, and then I started thinking, well, how am I going to put these characters together in a story? So I've done it both ways.
Okay.
But nowadays my writing in my 30s is stream of consciousness for sure. Like, I just start putting stuff on paper. I like I'm getting out the dream that I had.
Stream of consciousness. That's what I was thinking of when I was talking about freeform writing.
Yes.
You know, whatever, to do that 50,000 words.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
whatever.
I mean, it's not stream of consciousness like that, but it's just like getting out, like, okay, I had this idea about a guy in a field with sunflowers, and there's this vivid scene in my head, so I start describing it and writing it.
Okay.
And everything like that. And that's what I did. Like, I started writing, not finished, a series of short stories in college based on a dream that Kristen had. And it was also like it was based on a dream Kristen had and a dream that I had. And I kind of meshed them together, and I just started writing. And one of these days I'm going to finish it.
I still remember
that. Well,
dream.
you know,
weird dream.
When I was a kid, when I was probably about 4th grade or so, I started writing short stories. And mostly my short stories were based on stories or urban legends that people told me, you know, things like that. And so I really actually had a beginning, a middle, and an end. You know, there was a story concept there that was given to me by somebody telling me this urban legend about a neighborhood haunted house, or, you know, what happened there or something. And so my stories started there. And like I said, we're talking 4th grade, you know, so I was very young, and they were very short stories, like just a couple of pages or whatever. But I did, you know, I had a concept, and I told the story much in the same way I tell my journaling, my personal stories, my personal narratives. It's just this small short story. Here's introducing you to what's going on. Here's the meat of the story, and there's the conclusion. And that was, you know, I wrote them out that way. So, I think that's generally the way I have written. But I don't do a lot of fiction. Even the fiction that I was writing, like these urban legends, I wrote them as though they were fact. So, you know, that's a little bit different, I think, different way to look at it to me. I don't know.
I really like the whole idea of fan fiction.
Oh, yeah.
I think, like, for me, that might be a fun way to, like, practice writing fiction, because then you can still clutch onto a story that's already, like, established. And
I have some students that write fan fiction. So, I mean, they're like what E.L. James wrote a fan fiction for Twilight, and it turned into 50 Shades of Grey. So, I mean, it's totally, entirely possible to completely craft a novel. And that would be a good exercise for the novel writing month, is do a fan fiction.
Yes, and then convert that fan fiction into something.
Well, that's actually kind of where my mind was going, because I was like, you know, you're talking about like magical realism, I could put myself in any like fandom easily.
You should do a fan fiction about your favorite novel series that you've been reading for the
That's
last
totally
2
what
years.
I was thinking.
Oh my God, you were. I knew it. I knew it.
Yep.
You need to put yourself on the ice world and
Yeah.
fan fiction that.
Fan fiction, my Ice Planet Barbarians.
Yeah, you need to be
Ooh,
like
you could
the
do
next.
something like where you're reading the book and you fall through the book.
Oh, the Neverending Story style.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow,
Two of your
that's
favorite
a little
books
more
there.
magical than her story goes. Her story is very kind of has that magical realism, but it's unrealistic, but
I mean,
it has a slight element of
yeah.
like there's a character that has healing hands, and that's about as magical as it gets. Oh wait, just kidding. There's like these what do you call it when someone like a shapeshifter, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Where the dragons shape shift into human form. There's a couple of characters like that, and then there's what they call splices, where there's like a few people that are like genetically created by these aliens, because it's actually a sci-fi romance. And
did you name the
oh
series?
no, we didn't. So I've been reading by Ruby Dixon. She's a author who has like a ton of books, and they're all like interconnected. But the main one that I got hooked on was called Ice Planet Barbarians, which is actually like they call it like the TikTok. I don't know, like someone started TikToking about it, and it blew up, and she became like one of like the top Amazon book sales.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And it has a huge social media following, and she did all during COVID. Like once a week, she would publish another chapter, because she just releases it out for free. Like all of her books are on Amazon Kindle Unlimited and stuff. And so she was publishing like once a week a new chapter for her books during COVID, and so all of her stories are kind of like intertwined together. And I've been enjoying reading all of her books. I'm almost done. I'm up to date on all of the Ice Planet and related stories. Now I'm reading the other books that she has that are also actually kind of related too. So I'm like, oh, I could put myself in all kinds of different stories.
Yeah. That's actually I could do that too with one of the series that I like to read, like the Christine Feehan's Safe Haven series or something like that. No, it's not called Safe Haven. It's called the Drake Sisters series.
Okay.
But it's basically, that one's also magical realism. It's basically like these sisters that live in this town called Sea Haven, not Safe Haven. I'm definitely asleep. But yeah, these sisters that live in this town called Sea Haven, and the town is just kind of like a hotbed for psychic activity. And they just happen to low-key be kind of witches. Like one can levitate objects, but not like one can manipulate the weather. Each of them has like a different gift. One has the power of stealth, where she could like just kind of make herself invisible, like sneak in and out. She was like a spy and works for the government and stuff like that. So, and then one has a powerful singing voice, and one swims really well. So like they all just kind of have some kind of ability.
Okay.
And they're all sisters, and like each one of the series is like the sister finds the one, the man that they fall in love with. And then that expands out to like one of their cousins in a different set of series. And then one of the guys has a brother and that expands to a different set of series, you know, just like Ruby Dixon, like they're all connected.
Yeah. Hers is interesting. So, because she shares at the end of all of her books, she shares like how she came about the characters and stuff. And that's every time, you know, she's got a book that comes out, if she introduces a new character, she has a saying like, if I give them a name, you can guarantee there's going to be a book about them, because what ends up happening is she gives people names in her stories, you know, the people that they come into contact with. And then they just speak to her, and they come alive to her. And so she ends up creating a story for them. And there's several characters that I'm like waiting patiently for a story on, you know, just because they've popped up, you know, in a couple of books. And she's really good at developing the characters. I'm talking about like she has like 40 some odd books in this series, and every single person is like completely different from the other people. She takes very good care of not making them all sound kind of like run-of-the-mill, like cookie-cutter character types. And so, like, when she gives them a name and they have this little personality, it already, like, my mind is turning like, oh my gosh, what's their story gonna be, you know? Because when they get their story, she really, like, unfolds them and dives deep into their psyche. And I really like that about her stories. And I wonder, like, for myself, like, would I be able to not make everyone seem the same? You know?
Yeah, that's really difficult. That's like one thing that I really applaud George R.R. Martin.
Yes, that other R.R. person.
Yeah,
yes.
The other R.R. person. I really applaud his ability to write from a 12-year-old girl's perspective.
Yes,
I know.
Write from a snotty teenage boy's perspective.
Yes, because he really captured the you know, the essence
like
of
he put himself in each character and like made himself a 13-year-old girl. And it's just, I mean, I was just like, man, how does this guy keep all of these characters in his head and able to write a chapter from their perspective and then circle back to them later
in timeline frame.
In timeline frame.
Yeah,
like I'm just wondering like how he wrote it. Yeah. Like I wonder if he wrote it
the whole book all at once. Yeah.
Yes. Like I'm wondering if he like stopped and he wrote like Sansa's story first, and then Tyrion's story, and then kind of chopped them up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then kind of chopped them up.
Yeah, that's curious. Yeah, I would like to know that too.
Pick his brain.
That was also another book. I had never read a book like that before, and that's the way Ruby Dixon writes. Each character has their own chapter, so it's only two people in hers. But and there's, you know, reading her stories after reading, you know, Game of Thrones, it was easy peasy, you know.
Well, Barbara Kingsolver also wrote, well, I don't know if she always writes that way. I've only read one of her books, but the Poisonwood Bible was written in that way. It was from the perspective of the sisters, you know. And that was probably the first one that I ever read that was written from multiple perspectives, and she put herself into these very different sisters. And it was very obvious, you know, as you read it, the point of view, the psyche of each of the sisters was very specific and came through very well in the writing. And that, I think that's part of what made it such a powerful book. So, yeah, I love that.
So, a question, Amber, since you're the writing expert. So, obviously, there's different points of view when writing. There's first person and third person, yada, yada. Like, obviously, I believe for beginners, first person perspective is the easiest when you say I.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're writing about yourself.
Yeah. Definitely, that would be...
That's the best starting point for someone who's a beginner?
Yeah, I would say that, like, although a lot of times people find it hard to write about themselves. I know I do. Like, when I first started writing, I wrote in third person because it was a lot easier for me to write from another person's perspective than put my own thoughts and my perspective on paper.
So you wrote about yourself in third person, or
no?
Just another
I just
character
wrote about another character.
Okay,
like I couldn't put myself, I guess, in that character's perspective. Like now I can, but I would say, like, if you're going to do a personal narrative, then I would definitely do it in first person instead of third person.
Yeah.
Because it would be a lot easier, especially if you're going to write about your life and then just add other aspects to it. Because you just put your personality on the page.
Well, and that is a lot of the way I write my journaling. Because even though I'm not writing fiction and I'm not writing novels, when I'm writing my journaling for my scrapbooks or for my modern story or my essays or whatever, I almost invariably write in first person, my own point of view. Everything is from my own point of view, because that's really the
except
only
your Christmas card.
Except my Christmas card?
Yeah, your Christmas card is from
that is a third person. Yeah, I do that one in third person, but it's because my Christmas card is from the whole family, or from the household, I should say. So I do write that one in third person, but any of my journaling or anything, I always write it from first person, because everything is my perspective of what's going on. And I don't know. I guess I have a harder time putting myself in somebody else's shoes, or saying this is how Mark would feel. Doing Mark's perspective would be difficult for me, because I don't see things the same way he does now. And, maybe that's the limitation of my own creativity. I don't allow myself to see things the way he does or something. I don't know. But I think that would be a challenge. Well, I know that would be a challenge. I mean, there's tons of marriage counselors that challenge married couples to do things from the other person's perspective. So it is a challenge.
Right. So. I think one of my big setbacks that would keep me from actually going through with writing a story is being afraid that both of my characters would be of the same mind and same personality type. Because
that's me, because I have my own perspective of things. Yeah.
And I would have to deliberately make the other person
like the opposite of me.
Well, and I think that's why that winter summer style romance novels, because they're two completely different people that
right.
clash.
A lot of authors a lot of authors can't do that either. So if they write from first person narrative, one character's part of the story, then if they're dating somebody or there's another character, they'll go and write that part of the story third person narrative.
Okay.
Kind of well, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
No, yeah.
A good example of that.
I know what you're talking about, because I've read that. It's like the heroine, everything is from her point of view.
Yeah.
But then you get this little glimpse of some other character, like the sneaky bad guy or whatever, doing
and it's from
something.
third person,
person.
Omniscient point of view.
Yes, because it's
is
hard to put yourself into that other perspective. That I think that's true of life. Maybe that's the lesson to be learned there. Is that
that's
we
why
should do
easy.
more practice looking at others through their perspective.
Like I said, that's why it's easy for me to write in third person, especially third person limited. Because third person limited, you don't have to know all of their thoughts and feelings.
Right.
So
just
it's
the
a
ones
lot.
they say.
Yeah,
and their body actions that other people pick up.
Yes.
So it's a lot easier for me, even writing about myself. It's a lot easier for me to write in third person, limited, than it is like writing first person, two different characters.
Right.
And you really have to be, a George R. Martin, or whatever. Like you really have to like
he
sit
does
down.
have ghostwriters too, so
Yeah. Well, okay, that takes it out. But really like you just have to like, sit down and you have to really put thoughts and feelings into a character and really just
you have
make
to
that
think
your
of
life
things from their point of view.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the hard thing.
That's one of the reasons why I like Ruby Dixon's stories, because when she's writing each chapter on the first person perspective of the two characters, when you're reading the female's perspective and you already understand her, and then you've read the male's perspective and you understand him as a person, and then one of them says something that the other person misunderstands, like I feel it, like
right,
it's like that gut reaction, like I physically like feel like the sadness or that rejection feeling, because I know that what this person's thinking is not really what they're saying. They're like misunderstanding it.
Yes,
because I've read both sides, and I feel like you can't experience that if it's only from one person's point of view.
Right.
You are only experiencing their point of view. And when something makes them upset, you might be like, no, I don't think that's really how they meant that. But when you are reading it from two different first points of view, you're like, oh my God, don't listen to him. That's not what he means. He just said it wrong,
Right. Yeah.
Don't think that way. Yeah.
Right. But yeah.
I mean, nowadays a lot of writers pair up, like if they're going to do the dual points of view, like one writer will write from one character's perspective, and the other
in the case
writer
of a ghostwriter or whatever, yeah. Here's what I want to happen with my character. Can you write this character? Well, and that's the way they write stories. Writers that write television episodes and stuff, very often one person will write for a character, and they are around, the writers are around a table, and they know that the storyline is going to go like this. So each of the writers has an assignment to write that character so that character. I mean, think of something like a soap opera where you have dozens of characters, and you have to do things from that person
to keep that continuity,
to keep the continuity of their behaviors and their dialogue or whatever. So that's a challenge. It is a very difficult.
Yeah, and I applaud those that can do it, and there's nothing wrong with those that team up with another writer.
There's lots of great writers. That
I can think of like a lot of different books that have like two different writers that write from two different perspectives, and it makes for really interesting fiction.
Yeah, in fact, the series I'm working on right now is written two of George R. Martin's writers, and I cannot remember their name. I will link them on the blog. But they have the Expanse series. They've got together and they're writing this, and it's written under the name James A. Corey, I think is what it is. And that's so sad because I haven't read. I'm on like book 7 or 8,
and you can't remember the author.
I know, but it's been like a hot minute since I actually read one of the books because I got stuck reading A New Earth, and but they write together, and there's a lot of stuff done from a lot of different perspectives and stuff, and but I do, and another one of my favorite authors is Larry Niven, and he often writes with Jerry Pournelle, and they write, a lot of series books together, and they write really well together, and they're two of my favorite authors. So yeah,
another world creator.
Yes, those are both world creators. Yes.
Let's see, a romance novel author I really like. Her name is P.C. Cast, and she teamed up with her daughter, Kristen Cast, and they wrote I think they're still coming out with books on it, but they wrote a series of vampire novels. And it's about like a vampire, not Vampire Academy, but something similar, of like a girl that discovers that she's a vampire. And they're called the House of Night series. So does anybody else have anything to add, or
I'm excited about the challenge.
Are y'all ready to get started on your challenge? Probably when you wake up tomorrow.
I'm nervous. About
you can do it. You can do it. And I want to challenge our readers to do this also,
and share them on the Facebook.
Yeah, share them. We want to hear from you. So we would like you to share your submissions with us, and the instructions will be posted on our blog currently, on our Heard It on the Podcast blog. So head on over to our website and check out our blog. And we'll also post a share of our blog to Facebook if you head over there and look for the instructions on how to submit. And we want you to share your stories with us.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It'll be a fun challenge.
It will be. I look forward to seeing if anybody takes us up on it besides you two. Did I say I was going to do it? No.
Yes, you're going to do it.
My gosh, I don't know what I'm getting into.
So what are we talking about next week?
The 70% method.
I was like, please don't say December Daily.
Of course.
No, the 70%
yes,
method.
So that's me. Yes. So we'll be talking about what the 70% method is and how you can apply that in your life.
And so it is a goals girl.
Yes.
Yes.
It is a goals girl.
And it's a very interesting concept, and I'm not going to give any of it away. You have to come listen.
Yes.
To figure it out. So, yep.
Okay, so to wrap it up, we'd like to thank Red Door Studios and Creative Audio Tech for our sound and equipment. And we also want to thank our listeners for continuing to come see us, hear us every week. Yeah. We love you guys. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a rating, and come see us on MMC Chat on Facebook.
Participate in the conversation.
Yeah. Participate in the conversation, read our blogs, and participate in our challenge.
Yeah.
It's November. You have until November 30th to participate. Okay, well, catch you next time.
Bye. Bye.